The multiplex legislation has now been in effect for over a full year, and it begs the question, is it actually having an effect on housing? How many builders are actually taking advantage of it? Are units really being sold? And quite importantly, does it make financial sense to build these? In this video, I'm pulling back the curtain to show you the real numbers. How many permits are in place? How many units are under construction? Plus, I'm going to share real pro formas from 3 projects that we're involved in, including some that demonstrate homeowners achieving more than $1 million net profit above what they would have obtained by just selling their existing property on the open market. I'm going to break down what it really costs to build, how developers are pricing their construction costs, how much is being paid to the city, how much profit can be made, and how these developer projections stack up against the biggest valuation firms in the country. And for the first time, I'm going to show you a tool that we've had developed whereby you can enter in your property's address and instantly see if your property qualifies for multiplex, how many units can be built on it, and how much money you could make from your existing lot. And it only takes seconds to find out. The results are surprising many people who have tried it, and it may change the way that you look at the value within your property. Let's dive in and see what's really happening with multiplex. Back in September of 2023, Vancouver City Council made history by approving the SSMUH zoning, or small scale multi-unit housing zoning policy. And at the time, Mayor Ken Sim called it bold action on the housing crisis. It's a once in a generation rezoning that promised to reshape the city's housing landscape. And make no mistake, this will be the single largest rezoning legislation of any of our lifetimes. To break it down in its most simplest terms, effectively, every single family lot within British Columbia was upzoned overnight, allowing for 4 to 6 units to be built on it. The goal was simple: unlock the missing middle and inject much needed housing into our province. I could tell from the moment it passed that this was going to be transformative. And so we started releasing videos about it 18 months ago. Since then, we've sat down with developers, architects, builders, and lenders. 6 deep dive videos that explore how this legislation is reshaping the economics of housing in Vancouver. And this isn't just theory. My team is involved in 3 multiplex projects today. One on Vancouver's west side, where construction is already underway, and the very first of 6 luxury homes just pre-sold for $2.8 million. We have a second project in East Vancouver where demolition is set to begin this month, and a third project in Coquitlam, which will be a 4-plex. The owner is set to take possession in October, with construction starting almost immediately. On top of this, we've also been running live webinars to educate homeowners about what this zoning could mean for their property values. The response has been overwhelming. Many are only just realizing they can make far more by developing than by selling outright. If you would like to watch the latest webinar replay, just type webinar in the comments below and I will send you the direct link. So next, I want to answer the question regarding activity levels. How many builders and developers are actually taking advantage of this new zoning legislation? Between September of 2023 and June of 2025, the City of Vancouver has received 579 development permit applications for multiplexes and issued 114 permits. Let's have a look at where all of these permits have been applied and issued for. So here is a map of all the development applications for multiplex within Vancouver. What we see here is pink means that the permit has been submitted, and green means that it has been approved. Zooming in now, we can see different styled icons here. And quite simply what they mean is when you see 3 dots like this, it simply means triplex or 3 units. The diamond shape, 4 corners, means 4 units. The star has 5 points, that's 5 units. And yeah, you guessed it, when you see the snowflake, that has 6. So pretty straightforward, but you get the idea when you look at the map from the all-encompassing view that it's really being adopted across the entire region within Vancouver. There's no sort of one area that is being ignored. Multiplex is clearly having demand across the entire landscape. If you'd like to check this map out for yourself, just type map in the comments below and I'll send you the link, because it's kind of fun. You can really zoom in to check on the projects. You can click on them. This one's got the permit approved. Next, you go to the description and you get a little bit more details, the exact address, what's being built, who applied for it, and you can do this for every single one of the projects that you see within this map. Really informative and fun to see this evolve across our city. What I wanted to show you next is this multiplex tracker. And you can just see here, I'm just going to scroll through part of them. These are all 400 plus applications, and it has an update on as to, of course, the address, if the permit's been issued, if it's secured rental only, the area, permit date, and things like how many parking stalls are required, if the permit's been issued, delisted, or is pending. Scrolling down all the way to the very bottom now, just want to point these numbers out. So this encompasses 410 applications. That's going to create 1,737 missing middle homes for Vancouver. You can see they include 1,221 parking stalls. This is updated almost in real time as well. So if you have any questions or would like me to explore any of these properties further, just reach out. I'd be happy to share more intel with you. Now on to two of the most commonly asked questions we get about multiplex. First, how much does it cost? And second, how much money can actually be made? To answer this, I'm going to share pro formas from 3 of our actual clients. Those will then be compared to revenue forecast projections modeled by the Laidler Development Group. Then we're going to compare all those numbers to the projections on both costs and revenue provided to us by Altus Group. And lastly, well, let's look at the hard evidence. We're going to look at actual and recent sales of similar projects, being, of course, half duplexes and townhomes. Those are in the same realm as multiplexes, to give you an idea of what type of sale prices are being achieved in the landscape today. Okay, so here's a top level of one of the pro formas that has been presented to one of our potential clients. This is a property on West 16th. The developer and the homeowner don't want their address revealed, but work with me. It's a nice West Side property on 16th, so busier street. This lot, 6,250 square feet. Ultimately, we determined that 4 units at about 1,563 square feet each would be what we brought to the marketplace. To get an idea of expenses here, this developer would buy the property outright. So as you can see here, it's worth about $2.8 million on the open market. Today, developer buys it for that. Obviously, they've got their closing costs involved here. Next, back up to the top, when we look at construction costs, this developer is achieving $300 a square foot for their hard costs, right? For their construction costs. A lot of people probably might push back on that, right? You've had maybe single family construction at $500 a foot or $600 a foot on the west side. Well, this family company's been in business for decades and have 7 projects under construction today where they are achieving $300 a square foot. So clearly they feel very confident in that number. Moving down the rest of the pro forma here, we show the contingency, interest costs, lender fees, development management fees, construction management fees, etc., bringing their total hard at about $2.573 million. The soft costs, which includes things like the design, commissions, legal, marketing, and let's see here, city fees. For this fourplex, the city will be receiving a nice check for $372,000. So when you're wondering about, how much the city gets, there is a perfect apples to apples example. And obviously we're increasing the price of each home by 1/4 of that amount. So about $721,000 in soft costs. Total construction budget down at the bottom here, 6.2, management fee, cash reserve. The total project costs from everything from buying the land to building the homes for this is about $6.386 million. Okay, so let's remember that number as we move into the revenue side now. This project is estimating that it can achieve $1,250 a square foot for these 1,563 square foot homes, which means a sale price of about $1.953 million per home. After commissions and sale costs, you're looking at about $7.64 million. Again, the cost we just went over, $6.386, leaving a projected profit at about $1.252 million. Okay, that's what this developer thinks it can achieve by buying this lot, building, developing, and selling. Decent number, right? All the risk, it's a $6.4 million risk to potentially receive $1.25 odd million return. So a couple numbers I want you to remember here as we go forward. $300 a foot for hard costs, for construction costs, and $1,250 a foot sale price. Okay, now let's look at the next one. So different address here. This is on West 22nd. Really, really nice lot. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller at 5,714 square feet, but a very prime address. As you can see, when we jump into the land here, first of all, 3.2 million this property is worth on the open market. And this is almost entirely land value, right? The house is old. It'll be torn down, obviously. When properties have nicer or newer or renovated homes, there's so much kind of money lost in that quite often we find those properties are worth more on the open market. So quite understandably, the type of projects that developers target have older and more rundown homes. So same thing, this is now broken down by cost per foot. Again, even though it's a nice west side address, still able to achieve $300 a foot for their construction costs. This one's been broken down. I think, there's a good number to remember here. When we look at all these soft costs, including the city fees, look at that, they're getting another $250,000 from this project. The soft costs all in, $98 a foot. Okay, so we're going to call it $100 a foot moving forward, but you get the idea. And remember those numbers, 300, 100. Okay, now, because this is a nicer address, the sale price per foot is quite high. They're targeting $1,390 a square foot. That's what the developer feels they can achieve on this project. With the units being 1,429 square feet on average, purchase price offering to the market will be around $1.986 million. Again, being able to achieve a list price under $2 million has a psychological effect and is let's just call it quote unquote decent price for a missing middle home in this neighborhood. Obviously, there's going to be cheaper the further south and further east you go, but for this one in a very hot, desirable area, the developer feels that just under $1,400 a foot is achievable. So again, total cost on this one, $6.558 million. You've got your projected net sales proceeds of $7.763 million. Projected project profit on this one, about $1.2 million. When we kind of break that down, I'll move my face here. That's about an 18% return on cost that they are estimating, or a 37% return on equity annualized over 2 years. Okay, option number 3. This is a unique one because this is a co-development. So homeowner approached us with a large South Granville lot, over 12,000 square feet. And we realized that we could build a sixplex for this family. Average units were about 1,541 square feet. And, ultimately underbuilding for what's possible here, right? This is a 12,000 square foot lot. If we wanted to build at 1.0 FSR, we could build upwards of 12,000 sellable square feet. Ultimately thought that was probably too big, right? Because you can overbuild. And for this area, for this community, if we overbuild and had to charge a higher number, they become less sellable. So the 1,541 odd square feet seem to be the most desirable for that area. Construction costs come in at about $4 million. This property worth $5 million on the open market today. We break down mortgage interest costs and then, of course, apply the revenue to this. Now, this is a South Granville address. Granville is a busy street. And so we're targeting $1,200 a square foot to sell these units, right? Probably the lowest of the 3 options we've shared. But again, busier streets, typically less desirable. So you have to have the price point that emulates that. This homeowner likes her address, likes her area, has lived there for many years and wants to remain living there. So the option that was presented was that we would build 6 units and sell 4 of those, whereby the homeowner keeps 2, one for themselves, one for the children. That's how they wanted to kind of configure this opportunity. As you can tell at the bottom here, keeping those 2 units, again, their value on the open market would be about $3.6 million. This is a mortgage-free property, right? So that's all paid off. The cash profit from the sale of the 4 units was around 2.8 pre-tax. And look at this number at the bottom. This is the most important number, of course, right? The total equity from owning those 2 properties still, and the cash returned is about $6.4 million. So remember, they could sell for $5 million on the open market, or develop multiplex, sell for, keep 2, have a net total equity and cash value of about $1.4 million more than just selling on the open market today. Here's a bit more of a breakdown, and this is obviously a different developer, different pro forma. It's quite top level. We get into it deeper with the client, but for video's sake, I just wanted to share these numbers. And the important ones here, when we look at the hard cost number here, he's actually combined the hard and soft, but similar to the last developer, hard cost $300 a foot, soft cost $100 a foot, right? So you're really starting to see similar developers producing similar numbers. So in summary, what are we seeing? A consistent number of around $300 a square foot for your construction costs, soft costs in the range of $100 per square foot, and then estimated sale prices of $1,200 to $1,390 a square foot. And what I want to do now is compare this to what the Laidler Group and what the Altus Group are projecting for similar costs and revenues within Vancouver West. So this spreadsheet has been developed by the Laidler Group, and it essentially displays the minimum required revenue for feasibility. Okay, so what he's doing is saying, what is the minimum per foot revenue required for a project to break even? Okay, so if a developer is going to approach a project and say, what is the downside risk? How much potential downside is there? Or ultimately, what do we have to sell at an absolute minimum to not lose money on this project? And where does that sit against what the market valuations are showing us today? This is both for 4 units and 6 units, as you can see, 2 different breakdowns. And realistically, yes, it's got the land acquisition, hard costs. Oh yes, let me show you this. Laidler Group targeting hard costs, $340 a foot, upwards to $365 per foot. Clearly above what these 2 developers in the previous examples had shown us. So they're a little bit more conservative on their numbers. Obviously not a bad thing. As you can see here, their soft costs, if we're talking about $750,000 to $800,000 for 8,000 square feet, we're kind of right on that money target of about $100 a square foot. So the soft costs do track between developers and Laidler. Skipping ahead to the revenue side, as you can see here, minimum revenue per unit shows you that $2,025,000 or $1.4 million for the smaller units here. But again, right below it is the main number I wanted to share with you from this feasibility. Minimum revenue per saleable square foot, okay? About $1,012 to $1,053. So seems a little bit more reasonable. Now again, keep in mind, this is to break even. If we go back to our previous numbers, remember the developer was targeting $1,200 to basically $1,400, but Laidler is saying you need to be in the range of about $1,050 for a break even. So clearly that extra gap is the developer profit / putting in some room for contingencies. If you are exploring building in a city outside of Vancouver, Burnaby, Surrey, elsewhere, I've got these feasibility studies for basically every single municipality, including there's the Burnaby one, Pitt Meadows, Surrey, Port Moody, Maple Ridge, North Vancouver, Richmond, Delta, Coquitlam, Langley, New West, and so on. So if you're interested in developing in one of those areas and you'd like to get a copy of this, just reach out. Be happy to share it with you. So now I want to share the data that Altus Group has given us when they were analyzing multiplex for Vancouver's west side. They're using a standardized 6,000 square foot lot and building 4 1,500 square foot units utilizing the 1.0 FSR. Here's what they found. Altus Group is targeting a sales rate of $1,350 a square foot. So obviously on the high end. Now look, I get it. When we're talking about Vancouver West, what sells closer to Kits is going to be very different than what sells in probably South Vancouver. So again, take this with a bit of a grain of salt, but it's starting to tie in all these numbers together and you get an idea of how feasible multiplex really is. So $1,350 a square foot sale price. So what's different here is the construction cost. They're targeting $425 a square foot. You know, we saw developers at $300, we saw Laidler at $365, and now we see Altus projecting $425. Okay, pretty different range here. And of course, knowing your numbers is vital to any project. Looking at other costs now, we've got the demolition at $40,000, offsites, landscaping, pad-mounted transformer, rainwater detention tanks. All that comes into about $250,000. And again, let's take a little bit of a breakdown here to share what the city fees, the municipal costs are. That's all located here. DCLs, permits and fees, utility connection allowance, density bonus. There's obviously a big one on the west side. Then you move into your Metro DCCs and Metro DC demo credit there. TransLink gets money. Additional municipal costs, property taxes. Of course, they're holding the property while it's being developed. And then HPO warranty and repairs. $480,000 in municipal costs. This is 4 units. You're looking at about $120,000 per unit in municipal costs and charges. This is before, of course, things like GST and property transfer tax that you also get the joy of paying. So gives you an idea of how much the city makes off of one multiplex project. Moving along, architects, engineers, and other consultants all get paid. Then we take a look here. We got marketing and consulting, right? You got to sell these. Development fees, contingency fees are in place. Financing is a big one. Look at this. There's $329,000 in interest and fees there. Basically your debt financing fees. So this project comes to a total of about 7.366 million. And I think I skipped it earlier, but the land was purchased at 2.5. So that's obviously an important element. But your total costs, all in, all fees, all costs, everything, 7.366 million. Altus Group is showing a profit of about 484,000. So clearly less than what we had the developers forecasting when they're upwards of over $1 million. This is a smaller lot than some of those, of course, and that's a huge factor. Obviously, if you double the lot size, you increase your revenue potential. But, this is kind of your average expectation for multiplex as viewed by Altus Group. So taking a $7.4 million risk may result in upwards of a $480,000 return. That equates to a return on equity of about 17.63%. So we talked about a per foot sale price targeted by developers in the range of $1,200 to about $1,400 a square foot for a multiplex project. And what I want to show you now is the prices that are being achieved on Vancouver's west side for the most similar home types we have, being half duplex and townhomes and row homes. This is what realtors use to access property information. And just real quick, we're looking at sales, sold data for Vancouver West, townhome, row house, duplex. And we're looking at similar sized projects, right? 1,400 square feet to 1,700 square feet, because that's important, right? Obviously, the bigger and smaller you get, it can really dramatically change your per foot valuations. These are new. We're looking at brand new projects, right? Maximum of 1 year old, and listed and sold within the last 12 months. So for all the west side, there's been 40. Get my head out of the way. So I'm going to arrange these by the per square foot sold price. On the extreme low end, brand new townhome can sell for as low as $997 a square foot. On the high end, we are seeing properties achieve $1,707 a square foot for what clearly is a nice duplex. But let's look at the median. Okay, maybe that's where we can consider this to be reasonable. $1,414 a square foot is the median per foot sale price of Vancouver West townhomes and half duplexes right now. So when we are saying that developers are targeting $1,200 to $1,390 a square foot, it starts to seem achievable. One big differentiator I need to point out is almost all of these, or probably all of these, are going to come with a garage. And basically, I would expect almost every multiplex project on Vancouver's west side to be open air parking, because the buildable square foot is included. And obviously you can't sell a garage on a per foot basis what you can for inside like interior space. So almost every developer, just to make the project feasible, has to utilize all that FSR possible on interior space. So maybe that asks the question, what is a garage worth? A number of developers are pricing out garages in the range of about $100,000 in value. So let's see what that does for the per foot when we remove it, right? So we've got this McKenzie listing here at 2.2, and we're going to remove an estimated $100,000 for a garage, leaving it at 2.1. This unit, 1,555 square feet, bringing us down to $1,350 a square foot. Okay, that's still somewhat in line with the $1,200 to $1,390 targeted square foot sale price. So it starts to give you an idea that the estimated revenue projections for multiplex look to be in line with feasibility. We'll know more, of course, as these are actually brought to market, but I wanted to kind of give it a top level overview of how these are being priced and their potential viability of actually selling within the target range. As mentioned earlier, one of the most exciting opportunities that has come from this rezoning legislation is the ability for homeowners to partner with developers to build and sell multiplex projects on their existing lots. So you're probably asking the question, does your lot qualify? And if it does, how much more could you net than just by selling your existing property on the open market today? To answer that, our partners at Vanplex have created a powerful software tool that lets you check your property's potential in seconds. You simply type in your address and it shows you what your lot is worth as a multiplex development. Let's run an example together. Okay, so let's pick a property and analyze it to see what the software says about its valuation if it were to develop as multiplex. So I'm just going to pick a property kind of middle of Vancouver West. I have no affiliation with this property whatsoever. I'm just going because it's a nice corner lot. It's on 34th. 34 is a lucky number of mine. But here's what's important. Let's look at the specs. It does show that it's a 1922 build, okay? So it's an older property, which is great because the actual structure, it's only valued at like $47,000. Understandably, the newer the home, the higher the value, but not to a developer, right? They're just tearing these down. So it's all about lot value. Really nice lot size, 8,456 square feet, and it is corner. As mentioned, we have a laneway here. And so I'm just gonna take this address and we're gonna go into our software here. The domain, the website is thevancouverlife.com/multiplex. And so once you go there, you simply scroll down to the address bar, type in your address, the mapping software will find that exact address, click on it, and here you go. Your analysis is already ready. You just got to enter your name. I'm just going to enter in mine, of course. Get my free property analysis. And here it is. So this property has already been identified as a 10 out of 10. Okay. The sale of these units could achieve upwards of $13.6 million. Projected profit, $6.8 million. Return on equity, 73%. Okay. So I'm not going to break down everything here. I'd love for you to do this on your own property. Just jump in, type in your address, get all this information sent to you instantly. It's really powerful, and it's been created for people to get a good understanding of what a co-development with us and our partners looks like. With over 400 multiplex permits already in place, the missing middle is starting to be addressed. This is actively changing the way we build and live within Vancouver. And I'll be honest, I'm genuinely excited about the opportunities it's creating, but it's not without its challenges. Just today, news broke that the city has halted 9 multiplex projects mid-construction because the buildings were too close to power lines. But here's the kicker. These projects had already been approved by the city and BC Hydro. So yes, there are some growing pains, but ultimately the multiplex movement is evolving and happening in real time. With thousands of multiplex units expected to come online within the next couple of years, the conversation shifts to what will make your project and your units stand out. How will you sell faster than the competition? How do you ensure that you're designing homes for the right buyer for your demographic area? These are exactly the type of questions that my team helps answer right from day one through our project sales and marketing division. Multiplex housing isn't just a policy experiment. It's here, it's underway, and it's already reshaping the way we live in Vancouver. With hundreds of permits in motion, thousands of new homes set to hit the market in the coming years, this shift is redefining what's possible for homeowners, developers, and communities alike. Yes, there are growing pains and challenges to work through, but the momentum is undeniable. The era of single-family exclusivity is giving way to a new model of density, opportunity, and affordability. The question now isn't if multiplex will change our housing landscape, it is how you will position yourself to take advantage of it. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you found this episode insightful. If you are thinking about building a multiplex project or would like to partner with us so we can handle everything for you, please reach out. All my contact information is below. I'd love to explore some options with you further. Thanks. Take care.